I'm Ian Curry, this is Chasing Cars. Now Mercedes-Benz has been very busy filling its lineup with electric vehicles of late. It now has 8 full EVs in its passenger car fleet, ranging from the EQA small SUV up to this, the new EQS full-size 7-seat electric SUV. There's not much in the way of competition when it comes to electric 7-seat SUVs. There's just Kia's EV9 that's arriving at about the same time, and we imagine that'll be about half the price of the $194,900 Benz is asking for this new EQS. But remember, this is the S-Class of SUVs and an alternative to the GLS combustion version. We're only getting one model from launch, the EQS450 4MATIC, and that means an electric motor over each axle, 4MATIC, all-wheel drive, 265 kilowatts and 800 Newton meters of torque. That will make this thing go from 0 to 100 in 6 seconds flat, which is quite incredible really when I tell you the weight of this thing. It is just shy of 3 tons. It's a full 400 kilograms more than a new Toyota Land Cruiser. Even so, it still has a full electric range of 483 kilometers. Not quite that benchmark psychological 500 kilometer range figure, but pretty close, and certainly enough for what we'd imagine this 7-seat SUV will be asked to do. We're going to be having a look around it. We'll be taking you through it, of course having a good drive of it as well to let you know what we think. All right, let's get started. Culprit for that huge weight is of course a gigantic battery. The EQS uses a 108 kilowatt hour battery. You can use AC charging, 11 kilowatts comes with the vehicle itself. You can option 22 kilowatt hour charging for a fee. And if you're public fast charging, it'll take up to 200 kilowatts, and that'll give you 10 to 80% charge in, we're told, roughly 31 minutes. So because electric, we don't need a normal radiator. We just have this bow-shaped panel for the grille, the giant Mercedes star in the middle, and all these cute little stars as well throughout that panel. A light bar runs the length of it. I've got signature digital lights at the side, and it's AMG line as standard on this vehicle, including getting these cool AMG power bulges in the bonnet. Being an electric car, you might want this to pop up to reveal a nice frunk up front, but no, Mercedes is not giving us access to this at all. Only a servicing dealer can get under there for some reason. We're not allowed into it. Coming down the side of the EQS, you can see it's very sleek. It looks reasonably low. It's not exactly muscular, it's not a big bulbous SUV or anything like that. It needs to work harder for its aerodynamics, of course. But seriously, look at the size of this thing. It is well over 5 meters long, and that wheelbase is 3,210 millimeters. That's a full 180 millimeters longer wheelbase than the sized down EQE SUV. Above the 21-inch standard rims, we've got this wheel arch cladding for that classic SUV look that we know. Running boards also come as standard, they're aluminium look, and these are nicely illuminated. Come back to it at night and it all lights up quite spectacularly with a puddle light also. These pop out door handles as well. Hopefully if I just give it a little rub, and they all pop out nicely, but of course it keeps it aero when we're driving along when they pop back inside. Moving to the back end, and it is, as expected, Benz EQ style. I have LED lights in 3D helix design, a light bar running the length, which has become quite the signature of these vehicles, and an AMG specific rear apron for the bumper. Importantly for families is exactly how much luggage and kit you can get into the back of this thing. Now it's large, but it's not GLS combustion version large, so I'm just gonna swipe and hopefully that'll work to get her open. 565 litres with the third row of seats folded down, and if you move that middle row of seat forward, you've got a much more expansive 800 litres of storage back here. I've had to clamber into the back of the EQS because what Benz hasn't done is they've not put a strap on these third row of seats to easily pull up for when we're outside the vehicle. So I've actually, unless I access through the middle row, I've got to climb into the boot and then pull them up like this. So not ideal. But if you're going to be using 7 seats, hopefully you'll be having them up the whole time. But just be conscious, it's not the easiest system in the world. With all 7 seats up, it leaves you with 195 litres of boot space. So there's enough for a few shopping bags or an overnight bag or two. Hopping into the driver's seat, and everything feels incredibly expensive in here. This is real quality stuff from Benz. It's as you'd expect in this flagship SUV. Just the material quality is superb throughout. Everywhere I touch, even to the very base of the doors, is soft plastic. And if you look at these lovely pillow headrests, I don't know why more car companies don't do these. For the relative cost of them, it feels luxurious. It feels limousine-like. You just want to travel a long distance in them. And then just throughout the cabin as well, I have these 12.3-inch screens, one for my infotainment, one for my digital driver's display in front. Their functionality on our test has proved absolutely superb. Once you get used to everything, all the functions, all the menus that you can go through, it really is clever indeed. There's been a lot of talk around Benz's Hyperscreen, which is the huge 17.7-inch thing that will just fill your dashboard, and you get another screen in front of the passenger as well. It's not standard on this EQS. You need to spend another $6,700 for that. Personally, I think it's very cool, but I also believe that what you get standard here is more than enough. It's not as distracting as that giant Hyperscreen, but unless you need that full entertainment pack, then this will be fine. One thing that maybe you will miss out on without that Hyperscreen is this giant slab of what is very nice material, almost like a wood pour there, but it is like a giant cliff face in front of the passenger, if you like. Beautiful air vents, like rotary air vents up front as well. I have ample storage through the center here, more USB-C ports, wireless charging, wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, cup holders, large, really deep storage in here, another 2 USB-C ports, and there's even storage, giant storage underneath this center console as well. You can put iPads, laptops, phones, anything. The leather quality in here feels absolutely fantastic to me, but if you want to option Napa leather, you can for an extra $4,300, but personally you don't really need it. What you do get with these seats as standard is heating, climate, and massage as well. And if I just go through my screen here, I have all these massage settings. So you can have hot relaxing for your back, mobilizing massage, workout backrest, wave massage, anything like that. And just to show you very quickly the ambient light, unfortunately it's not dark enough in here to show it, but I've got all these different selection of ambient light colors, including this active one, which when I accelerate hard, all these surfaces light up red, and then when I'm heavy on the brakes and it's regenerating to the battery, it turns blue. And that ambient light extends even to the side of these seats as well. So that's very cool. It's quite the light show, quite disco-like if you're driving at night. A new feature for Benz here is what they're calling the zero layer through the screen, and that's there to minimize you going to your most regularly found things through the menus. So as it learns your daily life, your daily driving, it might work out that you always phone your wife when you leave work at 5:30, and it'll just pop up, call wife, ? And those things start appearing on your home screen at smart times. So it's a really clever function. We haven't had time to fully explore it because it hasn't had time to learn us yet. What I'd also like to quickly show you is the off-road mode. I'm not sure how many people are going to take this vehicle off-road, but as you can see when it pops up, you've got the full system there showing you your drive type, where that's going to, your steering angle, and also if I can get into the camera system as well. This is a really cool feature. This is a see-through bonnet, if you like, and as I'll drive forward it will film it and it will remember what's gone before me, so you're able to see exactly what's beneath the vehicle at any time, which would be really useful to make sure you don't damage it when you go off-roading. Here's a little fun trick through the climate control as well. If I go quickly up, down, up, down, up, down on the climate, I've got this gorgeous pulsing red and blue light that looks just like an old police car. How cool is that? You can entertain the kids for hours with that, trust me. I'm a big fan of this Benz steering wheel. I do like this giant star in the center, but rest assured it is very complicated to get used to. It's massively chunky, but you do have these 2 stalks coming off here, all these different touch controls that you can go through. It really does take some learning. Then you've got your regeneration paddles behind that, and then behind that again, your gear shift selector and your indicators and wipers also. So there is plenty to learn in here, but you've got to get used to this steering wheel. Well, the third row of seats might not be electrified, the middle row is, and it's quite a cool system. I just tap a button on top of this middle row seat like that. These roll forward, this one comes forward as well, giving me pretty good access to clamber into the back. And when you're finished, someone's in the back, you just knock it back as well. There she goes. And then I've just got this functionality on the door that helps me put the backrest back when that one's finished. It's a long process, I must be honest, and it would be quicker, of course, with runners and handles to slide it forward, but if your kids are patient, they'll enjoy the electrification of it. Despite it being a 7-seater, this is the row you want to be in, the middle row seat. This is where you can travel in luxury. They are super comfortable seats, very well supported, and as you can see, I've got plenty of legroom, loads of headroom, panoramic glass roof above me that lets loads of light in as well, so it's a lovely place to travel. What it does miss out on is blinds for the back windows. That's a bit of a miss, unfortunately, and I've tried this middle row seat. While the backrest is quite firm, the seat itself is absolutely fine. Got climate control for the rear passengers here, 2 more USB-C ports as well. Despite the price of this thing, another thing you miss out on is rear outboard heated seats. If you have an extra $11,700 to spend, you can get a rear seat entertainment package. That brings screens for the back of these seats, an MBUX screen in the center as well for your functionality, wireless phone charging, not just heated seats for the middle row, but heated seats for the back row as well. It's a mixed bag when you get into the 3rd row of this vehicle. As you can see, I'm pretty well stuffed in. My knees are right up against the middle row seat. My toes are also quite crammed in, and as a 6-footer, my head is on the ceiling. So it's certainly more suitable for children as opposed to adults. What you do get though is the quality that you get from the front of the vehicle extending all the way back here. The seats are very comfortable. I've got lovely carpeting on the back of this seat for my knees to rest against. Lovely armrest as well. And down here I have 2 USB-C ports, a place for my phone and a drink, and that's mirrored the other side as well. So your kids would probably be pretty happy back here on long journeys. The first thing that grabs you when driving the EQS is the absolute serenity in here. There is noise-reducing laminated glass absolutely throughout, and of course very little noise from the motors at all, as there's no manufactured whirring or anything in the setting that I'm in, and that's exactly how this S-Class of SUVs should be, really. In actuality, is it too quiet? It's not giving me much signals when it comes to any audible things coming back at me, and it does take some getting used to, but at the same time I feel silly complaining about what these sort of luxury cars should be like, which is incredibly serene, incredibly quiet. The air suspension itself, you can feel that working away, and its bump absorption is something else. It is serene, it just oozes well-engineered class, and you start thinking maybe I should be sitting in the back. You actually want to sit back and just enjoy everything this ride comfort has to offer. So despite it being 3 tons, even more than that with 2 people on board, it is actually a very easy car to drive in town traffic like I am now. The steering is almost impossibly light. There's just enough feel for us, but rest assured you're not going to have any dramas when it comes to the actual easy drivability of this car. Where it does come unstuck is just the sheer size of it. It doesn't hide its size quite like other SUVs perhaps. It feels like a very big car, and when we've gone through some of the tighter, faster corners, it does feel its weight. It really does. Not saying that it doesn't handle well. It does show incredible poise through corners. There's not too much lean or anything, and the standout again is that air suspension. It really does mop up problems in a bumpy corner, and it really is a comfortable, easy, safe feeling thing to move around. The seats, they're incredibly comfortable, as I mentioned when we were just going around the interior, but again, you just love to sit back in these cushioned pillows behind your head. Again, it really is a big point of difference, this, between other brands as well. Why others don't do it is a mystery, really. It really is comfortable. Is the performance enough in this car? For me, it's absolutely fine for the sort of work this thing will do. 0 to 100 in 6 seconds flat, absolutely fine. And I do have drive modes, dynamic drive modes, that I can just filter through here very simply. I've got comfort, eco, sport, individual, and with that air suspension I can raise and lower the ride height as well. In that off-road mode it goes to 220 millimeters ride height. What I'm going to do now is throw it into sport mode, and that will lower the vehicle to its lowest ride height. And I'm just going to do one quick acceleration test, a rolling acceleration test where these things are at their best, and there is certainly ample shove there. It's not vulgar, it's a nice progressive movement. It's none of these super fast, ridiculous sub 4 second EV pull. Some of you may like that. I think in a 3-ton vehicle like this with 7 seats, it's absolutely fine as this is. What you'll be buying this for is a really cushy ride, and it super delivers on that front. It just oozes quality when it comes to bump absorption. It really is limousine-like. I've got a clear head-up display in front of me that's just warning me of my current speed limit, what I'm traveling at, my cruise control. And you can get an augmented reality one, again, for extra money if you want to dip into the options list, of which there are plenty for this EQS. But I think the standard fit head-up display is ample as it is. As standard on these EQSs is rear wheel steering, and it couldn't have fitted to a better car actually. Being over 5 meters long, it's actually incredible, the turning circle of this thing. Not quite a Kia Picanto, but I can just feel those rear wheels turning in nicely around this roundabout. And again, the turning circle, fantastic, and you really do need it in a car like this, but it will surprise you how well it does on that front. I'm just gonna give it another little burst of speed, and yeah, it's just satisfying, easy power delivery. And again, you've got to motivate 3 tons here, so that is endlessly impressive. As for the energy recuperation, going back to the battery, that's just operated through my steering wheel paddles. I've just selected strong recuperation, and that really does arrest the car quite quickly. But a good feature is if I press and hold the right paddle, that gives me intelligent recuperation. That means the car's going to basically drive for me. It's gone into cruise control mode, and when it needs to harvest energy back to the battery, when it feels it can do that, it's going to do just that. When you have the strong recuperation, I have noticed that the brake pedal goes slightly to the floor, so it's not quite where you expect it to be when you move across to it. And under the heavier braking that I've done, yeah, it's not the most natural of pedal feels. Nothing unusual there for an electric vehicle, but yeah, perhaps the driving reward there when you're going a little bit quicker in corners isn't quite there. You can just turn the whole recuperation off, and that gives the cruisiest, most Benz-like ride, if you like, and it'll just coast along perfectly without any of that regeneration happening, none of that arresting of speed. But again, I've just stomped on the brakes there a little bit, and yeah, it's not terribly natural feeling. You can see it's working for me rather than letting me do all the work with the brakes. 483 kilometers driving range. Is that enough? Personally, I reckon it really is for a vehicle like this, and positively, we've got pretty close to Mercedes quoted energy use, although I have noted that it has fluctuated wildly. Our overall is 24 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, but at times, our first 60 kilometers of the drive route, for instance, we were over 33 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and then on another stretch, certainly where there were less uphills, we were down 18 or 19. So yeah, there is obviously a lot of things happening to change that, but I suppose the key figure is looking at the overall, of which there are 1,300 kilometers on this vehicle, and it's at 24 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So it should stay reasonably true to that 483 kilometer range, and as I reckon, you don't need much more than that unless you're planning epic, lengthy, across Australia trips regularly. What the car does lack, however, is a real bit of personality. You expect when you're spending this sort of money on a Mercedes-Benz, and it's obviously this capable, and it has that giant battery, and with 800 Newton meters, remember, it's so much torque. Because there's no sound, and again, we've found this with many luxury electric vehicles, it's hard to differentiate one from the other because they just lack that personality that a Mercedes V6 or a V8 would offer. And I think that's something these cars have to work on, because even though it's an incredibly cushy, quiet ride, it just lacks that something that really makes it feel like a proper Mercedes-Benz. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining then, because I suppose the raison d'etre for this car is to be like a limousine and incredibly comfortable and quiet, and certainly when it comes to that, it's a massive win for Mercedes there. What are my thoughts then after a quick test drive of the EQS 450? Well, without question, it is one of the most luxurious, comfortable, sound-insulated cruisers I have ever been in, electric vehicle or otherwise. Questionably though, is there enough room inside with those back seats? Does it look good enough? Is that 484 kilometer range, is that enough? And is the price right? Is it going to sell in Australia? These things I'd love to know your thoughts about. Please leave the comments in the section below. Please subscribe as well if you haven't already done so. And thanks as ever for watching Chasing Cars.